I'm going to hit you with something maybe inflammatory. Grandmaster of Flowers, in current incarnation in game, is not bad, but it's kind of boring from like a monk perspective. Monks are like cool attacks. They do all sorts of cool stuff. But you have like everything is nothing, and then 5 tiers underneath that are kind of empty, and with some passives. What is Grandmaster of Flowers? Where'd you come from? What does it do now?
And now it's doing a lot of stuff. It's doing a lot of stuff that kind of defy explanation. It's the biggest, most obvious change is that everything is nothing is now completely someplace else. It moved somewhere else. It's not in this preview. It's still slated to be in the system, but it's
not even in the tree anymore. Oh, cool.
It's not here. It's someplace else. What is in its place is what Turn of the Tide became. So, yeah. It's just kind of swapped around, and a lot of stuff happened.
All right, so we'll take a step here and we'll go through it, and we'll kind of see what's going on. So number 1, inner focus, proficiency with hand wraps. You can get key now, as well as melee power, range power, key. Makes sense. Core number 2, Disciple of Material. So you choose a material type, and you get an automatic bypass, as well as physical resistance rating of that type. Very exciting. Crystal bypass is on here, which blows my mind. I love the color of this icon. That blue just gets me, you know?
I had to do that myself in Photoshop. We're going to get some real icons, I promise.
Oh, I really like the blue color, but yeah, that's great. And then Disciple of Morality and Alignment bypass. That's exciting. It's not the best. It's not the most powerful thing, but it's good. It's just effective. It's just great.
Yeah, it's kind of the weird sub-theme of this tree is DR bypassing and also dual wielding, and we wanted to make that very accessible.
All right. Strike the Poise, stunning DCs, very straightforward. Serenity. Grandmaster of Flowers, Destiny Mantle. You may now fight with the unarmed combat style as if you're a monk. When you attack with hand wraps and begin falling, you will use the monk class animations instead of your own, and you gain 10% action boost to movement speed and no longer take damage from falling. I remember for years you've said, I will get monk falling on every class in the game.
Yes.
And now you can do it.
Yes. Finally. Yeah, it's yeah, that's like it's in the Mantle because that is something that's very aesthetically defining of a character, and drastically changes your gameplay, which is why it is exclusive from other types of mantles.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a question in chat. Yes, there's 3 cores for now because it goes up to 26. There's space here, so I'm assuming there'll be more cores added in the future as the system continues to develop.
Yes.
Yes. All right. We have this. That's Serenity, the Destiny Mantle. Disciple Studies. It's got some skills, so we'll skip past that one. Enlightenment for maximum key and passive key generation, straight out of the old tree. And then we have the Grandmaster Builders. You have 2 different ones. One is Bring Into Focus. Focus inward to gain 2d6 key and a martial charge. You also gain spell resistance, an additional +1 for each point of passive key regeneration you have for 10 seconds. I'm assuming this doesn't have like an animation. You just kind of press it and it just gives you the thing.
Oh, you clap your hands. It's a 0.2 second animation.
Oh, okay, cool. And then Lily Petal. Fire Bolt of Key, dealing a bunch of force damage. Scaling with force spell power. The force damage is doubled versus tainted creatures. And as well as attempts to stun for 2 seconds with a DC based on 20 plus highest ability mod and stunning. Grants 5 key and a martial charge when activated.
Yes, that tooltip is wrong. All of the key actives in here skill with melee power at 200%. The tooltip itself is incorrect.
Okay, so it does melee power, not force spell power.
Correct. It does force damage that scales with melee power.
Okay. So is it safe to assume that since this is all ability modifiers, like highest ability modifier, everything in Grandmaster of Flowers is highest ability modifier?
Yes, although maybe part of me thinks that this might be a mental bonuses only sort of thing, because monks would want wisdom for their DCs anyway, so it's like, I don't think it's actually hurting monks at all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of up in the air.
I'm trying to figure out how I can play an Eldritch Fister. So getting charisma hit and damage with my hand wraps, and then using the monk abilities on a sorcerer. I'm just thinking about it, you know? Tier 2, Calm Before the Storm for some spell resistance, as well as each martial token granting you +1 to saves. Very straightforward. Yep. Your Grandmaster Spender, there's 3 of them. That's very interesting. First is the Drifting Lotus. It looks the same as the previous one. Melee cleave with W, threat, and multiplier. It does force damage on hit when you hit enemies as well, so it does damage and force damage. It's doubled versus tainted creatures. And if you have 3 or more charges, it attempts to stun, which is very cool. So this is a big frontal melee stun. And it costs key, of course.
Yes, it took some doing, but like it uses the same VFX as before, and it's very powerful cleave.
Next is Key Projection. Channel pure Ki into yourself and then project it forward with your attacks. For 10 seconds, your basic attacks are replaced by pure Ki projections that deal 1d10 plus 6 force damage per character level. The duration of this ability is increased by 3 seconds for each martial charges consumed. If 3 or more martial charges are consumed with this ability, dealing a d6 plus 5 force damage to all enemies nearby and attempting to stun them all for 6 seconds. So,
you should try that ability out.
This turns me into Goku?
Yes, you Hadouken with your basic attacks.
That's about right.
I will try to do it. I don't think I have enough points to get into the tree. I didn't get all the epic destinies yet.
You're almost there.
So yeah, I'm gonna keep looking at that one. The last one on here is Orchid Blossom. A blossom is released from your palm in a line, dealing damage when it makes contact, dealing a d6 plus 5 force damage, and it's doubled versus tainted creatures, and it also tries to stun all enemies. It grants Ki when used, so it doesn't cost Ki. So unlike Drifting Lotus, which is a melee that costs Ki, this grants you a bunch of Ki. And looks like the Ki projection also grants Ki, which is very interesting.
Yes, this is something that so like the abilities in Henshin Mystic that are spells, they cost Ki. And then the abilities in Grandmaster that do spell damage, so not the cleave and not projection, they give you Ki. So you can I'm trying to build some sort of rotation in which you wouldn't have to melee as a key caster.
Right. Very cool. So wait, what did you just say?
Caster? Yeah, key caster. I also this didn't make this preview, but I've finally figured out what the hell is wrong with goddamn Henshin Mystic SLAs. If you'll pardon my profanity, but this took a month. Turns out
family stream, Lynnabel.
It's a family stream. It's a Christian Minecraft server. But finally figured out why they weren't copying their DCs, and so now Henshin Mystic abilities will actually have their stunning bonuses built into them, including the stuff for Grandmaster. It's just a struggle.
Very cool. All right, I have these abilities. You want me to show off what this looks like?
Yes. It's gonna blow your mind. It looks great.
I can't perform this action in a public area. What have you done?
Oh, that makes sense.
I can go back to the dojo and do it. Maybe
this is a serious, actual bug with this ability. This is pretty bad. If you stop your blasting while you're in the middle of the wind-up time, it will make your character really messed up until you activate that ability again and go back to the action queue.
Okay. Well, I have...
So just try and stop a few seconds before the end for this stream. But
okay, so the martial charges, I have them. They're like on the side of my character, which is very cool. I love this visual to indicate how many charges I have. I can just clearly see it. And if I click this, Ki projection. Oh my god. I'm shooting out pure Ki. I run real slow.
Yes, while you're blasting, you are in the holding position while you're holding things down. Warlock has some exceptions built in. Give me just a second.
Unbelievable. What an ability.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm gonna get some I'm gonna fix the run speed thing because that's probably breaking the same way everything else is.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get some custom VFX for the charge, hold, and the blast and stuff like that. But yes, you are technically Eldritch blasting according to how the game understands your actions, and it does damage.
Monk spellcaster. All right, cool. Meditate. You get meditations, and you can now regenerate your meditate. Wholeness of Spirit, which is the same Wholeness of Spirit as before, but it has a 1-minute cooldown with 3 points, which is not bad. Hail of Blows gives you offhand strike chance and double strike, and double shot as well. This appears to support ranged characters. That's kind of cool. Strength of Stone, giving you health and physical resistance rating. Nice. Flickering Flame, give you hit and damage. And On hit and upon being missed, you can generate martial tokens once per 10 seconds, which is kind of cool. And they track separately, which is exciting. Dance of Flowers, so +1W, went from a tier 1 to a tier 3 overnight. Also, while you have to be in the Destiny Mantle. Lotus Blades, Longsword. Select a feat to gain access to it without meeting its prerequisites. Wait, what? You can get Lotus Blades Deflection. You may gain the effects of Whirling Steel Strike feat and may use longswords as if they were key weapons. Ooh. Yes. Lotus Blades Deflection. You gain Deflect Arrows. Longbows, you get Zen Archery for free. And Sickle, you gain effective Prescient Curve and use sickles as if they were key weapons.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a spoiler. But
Prescient Curve feat?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I'm just saying, in the future, hypothetically speaking, we did want to, make sickles into monk weapons. It could be anywhere, really.
Very cool. Very cool. Balance in all things. While centered, you may tumble through enemies and are immune to slippery surfaces in most forms of knockdown, plus you get +1 martial token. Very cool. All right, tier 4s. These are the big ones. These are where we're starting to invest. We're saying this is my second tree. I'm spending all my points. Flow of Water.
The tumble is also supposed to make you disappear and like a poof of flowers are in your wake, but we haven't
that's kind of cool.
Flowers yet. It just makes you disappear. Like I don't have the rest of that.
Yeah, Flow of Water, you get saving throws and less helplessness damage. Piercing Clarity is Piercing Clarity on live. Chase Perfection is you no longer fail saves on a 1, which I absolutely adore. Catch the Wind gives you dodge chance and max dex bonus, not restricted to a certain armor type. I'm assuming the centered property of key still applies in this tree.
Yes, this is actually going to remove the distinction between defensively centered and centered, which is why I'm giving you the feat that lets you be centered with other weapons outright, like in the tree. So you are actually going to have to obey both the armor and the weapon restrictions.
Okay. That makes sense. So then why is there max dex bonus on this tree if you can't equip armor?
If in case you're in here and you aren't in the mantle. If you'll notice, some of the other stuff here is kind of just generic. You can also be in the mantle and not be centered if you want the W. I might rearrange some stuff, but the intention was that I want Grandmaster of Flowers to be completely functional if you are not a centered player.
Right, that makes sense.
Thundering really hard here, so if I mysteriously disappear, we lost power.
Yes. And then this is Destiny Mantle, bonus damage to the helpless, which is not too bad. I consider that a pretty good thing. All right, top tier.
Obviously, Warforged Monk, that's why. It's because they have max dex bonus.
Oh, God, yeah, I forgot about this, of course. Beyond the Center, increased magical resistance rating cap. People have asked for this for thousands of years, and it's now here.
Yes.
So very exciting. Imposing Force, crit multi on 19 or 20. Scattering of Petals. Initial cost 30 key. Reduces your key regen by 50.
50 is a big number, but...
So it's minus 50 key regen, so you can't get key. You and nearby allies are covered in a swirling cloud of petals, granting you the effects of Petal Storm, and debuffing your allies with distorting petals, or disorienting petals. This ends naturally after 1 minute, or whenever you drop below 25 key. The storm moves with you, and enemies and allies that enter and leave its effects will gain its buffs or debuffs. So Petal Storm is you have full base attack bonus, 10% more weapon damage, and 10 PRR and armor class. Disorienting petals debuff. Enemies with this debuff become vulnerable to sneak attacks and lose 100% fortification. So the idea is you press this button, it creates petals everywhere, and it's quickly draining your key. And then, so if I have like 700 key...
Yeah, so it's actually... I've been playing with this buffer and debuff for quite some time. The actual key regen is not on a per second tick, it's on the game's heartbeat, which is a great deal slower than what players would expect. So even with a minus 50, it is very, very feasible to keep this up for the entire time, and that's not really the intention. I honestly, the generation may go to like minus 100, or I may prevent you from gaining key while this is on. But like right now, as originally it was 10 key a second, and I was like, that'll get rid of all of that. And then I was gaining key, and I was like, that's a little weird. This doesn't work the way I thought it did.
This makes sense. Eluding the Veil. You gain the effects of Elusive Target feat, and if you already have it, it instead has a double the chance to proc. 10% chance to just take 0 damage from monsters. Not bad.
Yeah, that's part of the like we're trying to buff some of those feats, but in specific situations, and it's like, was elusive target a viable choice before? Maybe. Is it with doubled and you're already in Grandmaster of Flowers? Maybe. Like it's a much easier maybe.
And then lastly, balance attacks, bonus tactical disease, passive generation, and balance attacks where it has the knockdown on helpless. Oh, it's here now.
Yep.
That ability was so busted. I mean, appropriately statted. It should be available.
Like, is it better or worse than Nerve Venom or like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot. Like, that's the thing is like we want to make this really clear that we're not trying to do this entire revamp to remove power from players. We're just trying to make it more appropriate. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means going, yeah, balance attack's really fun. Put it in there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, turn of the tide, but you could have it up 100% of the time. That makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, might as well, Yeah.
So, overall, Grandmaster of Flowers, I think this is a big improvement just in general. It makes it a lot more exciting to use some of the different abilities. And I'm excited to get my hands on and do some play testing with this. But now it's time to move over to Legendary Dreadnought, a tree that had a whole bunch of cool attacks that nobody used, and a bunch of passives that sometimes you took, but mostly you took Strength or Con on the side. And then you took, very specifically, the advancing maneuver, or whatever this is called, this one. No, that's Combat Brute. Whatever the advanced attacks was, Blitz, the critical threat multi on a 19 or 20, and then if you had an axe, critical threat multi on a 19 or 20, or Pulverizer with a bludgeoning weapon. So Legendary Dreadnought had almost like pre-built in abilities, very focused around action boosts. What do you think are the things when you were designing this? What's staying? What's going? How did you go with this?
So we approached it, Dreadnought is kind of it's a very polar destiny. There's some stuff that's really, really good, and that's good. And there was some stuff that was really, really good, but it was not as good for the health of the game. And there was some stuff that was bad, and a lot of that went away, and some of it came back and got better. So structurally, a lot of this tree is the same. It's still got most of the bones of being your generic, I am a person that uses weapons kind of feel. It's got a little bit of a fear slant to it that it didn't have before. But a lot of the big pieces are still there.
I mean, it is called Dreadnought, so I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so cores, we got Fearless, immunity to fear, as well as hit points, melee power, and range power per core. Weapon Master, which grants you +2 attack and damage on top of the hit points, melee power, and range power. And Thick Skinned, 15 PRR, plus the hit points, melee power, and range power.
Basic. You hit hard, you are tough.
Yep, makes sense to me. Epic Tactics for +3 to Tactics DCs, just kind of fits in there. It's the same thing. This was higher before, but I'm assuming this is the standardization of Tactics DCs as well as spell DCs kind of thing going on.
Right. We wanted this to be available if you only want to go, 4 points in Dreadnought, first core in these 3, just to get the tactics, that's available to you.
We have Momentum, which is the Martial Builder. So Momentum Swing is an AoE melee attack. So it's just, I'm assuming it's a cleave of some kind. And on hit, target gains a stack of terror, and you gain a martial charge. And the shot also grants terror and a martial charge.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same. There's just a melee and a ranged version. Unlike previous Dreadnought, you can go either way in this.
All right, that makes sense. I wanted to check out if things can do more, but I have to spend points in it, and I don't have any gold. Reset. Oh, this is so hard. Uh-oh. There we go. I don't know how long that was going to take. Take this. So if I took let's just say the melee attack, it grants more W, more critical threat range, and still the same amount of terror and martial charge. So it's an attack, critical threat range, and multi. Pretty standard, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not especially spicy, but again, this is the I hit stuff hard kind of.
Okay. Destiny Mantle. Every 3 seconds, nearby enemies gain a stack of terror. All right, so we have terror. What does terror do? It's not in the tree yet. I haven't seen it yet.
I thought we put that description in there. Let me go find it.
Yeah, because I'm on tier 1 and I haven't seen terror yet. It might come up later in the tree, but
I think we put it in the release notes, but not the
not the game.
Power minus spell power and -1 AC stacks up to 15 times.
Okay, so it's an enemy debuff that makes them weaker. That makes sense.
Makes their damage weaker and makes them a little more vulnerable to getting hit.
If Mighty Crusade stacks with Crusade, I believe those would be the same buffs because it's just Crusade.
Correct, it is the same buff.
Yeah, that would be just the same buff. What else we got here? So then we've got that. Shrug Off Punishment for extra life, 30 life, not bad. push through the line. Activate an action boost grants +3 ability score, +3 to all ability scores for the duration of that action boost. It's kind of like the human thing. Not too bad.
Yep. Get a little of that action boost flavor in there.
Tier 2, we have action boost per rest. Was there before, so it's pretty good. Lay Waste is the spender. Lay Waste melee gives you a big attack with crit, threat, range, and multi, and on hit, the targets must make a save. It uses all ability score bonuses. I'm actually really excited about this, the fact that it uses all ability score bonuses. There's too many times where I'm playing something that isn't strength-based, and so this is really exciting. And so it's a DC based on a Sunder, or take the effects of Sunder, and DC based on Trip, and to take the effect of Trip. So are you telling me that with Lay Waste, I can Trip and Sunder somebody at the exact same time with one ability?
That's the idea.
How come you're allowed to have 2 tactical feats at the same time?
Tactics.
And it looks like for increase, it just adds more damage. Yeah, as you level it up. And then Lay Waste range is, of course, the same thing. It's a ranged attack.
Yeah, that does Sunder and Trip.
Next is Life and Death, Healing Amp, and Negative Amp. Interesting Healing Amp and Negative Amp. It's got to be Negative Amp somewhere. Still waiting for the Repair Amp. We're 6 trees down. No Repair Amp yet. It's going to be in there. Double Strike and Double Shot is good. And then Epic Power Attack grants you extra damage while Power Attack is active. Power Attack used to grant you previously half of a W. Is there a reason why it changed out of that and now it's just extra damage per hit?
That kind of scales real high, and if I remember correctly, we decided early on to pull most of those out of the sources they were in. I don't think it came back in Dreadnought either, did it?
Mm-hmm.
It's in it's all like we said, like there have to be like in the Mantle for W scaling.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It'll pop up again. If it does, it'll probably be in the Mantle.
Critical damage. It's critical damage. Revel and Fear. Each martial charge you have grants you +1 tactical DCs. So as long as you're not spending your tactical DCs, you'll be able to gain, or like spending your martial charges, you'll be able to get extra tactical DCs, which is not too bad. So Discord. While your Legendary Dreadnought Destiny Mantle, activating an action boost adds a stack of terror and shaken effect to all enemies in the range of your mantle. It gains you +1 martial charge cap, which is kind of neat. Armor of Dusk grants you armor class max dex bonus and increases your maximum or your armor check penalty.
Your armor check.
So it makes your armor check penalty worse, but it gives you +6 max deck bonus. This is actually very, very strong for a lot of characters. It might not seem that good, but +6 max dex is really crazy for heavy armor and medium armor. So, and then Wrath. Activating a tactical feat has a 30% chance to grant you a martial charge. So that makes your Trip, your Sunder, those other things as actual DCs. Does this count regular tactical abilities? So like if I use like Thunder Shock weapons from Artificer, which is a tactical attack, it's a Trip. It used tactical DCs, but it isn't probably
not. There are some things that aren't straight tactical feats that would get triggered by this, but I would have to go look for the list. It's triggering off something very specific. If there are things that seem like they should be using it and aren't, let us know and we can probably do something about that.
Okay. Combat Brute. Well, you have an action boost active, +1 W. That's a good one.
There's the W. Moved it into while an action boost.
Yeah,
is active.
that's a good one.
It's higher up than it was before.
Classic Dreadnought. While in the Mantle, you gain helpless damage. This seems also to me is pretty standard. Every melee mantle or DPS mantle has a helpless sometimes in here. Dread. While in your Destiny Mantle, you gain 15 physical resistance rating. Your mantle also harms nearby enemies, dealing bane damage. So this is basic. Wait a minute. Is Terror just the thing from Divine Crusader?
Maybe.
But it's put here? This is where it went.
Yes, it went here.
Okay, so okay, that makes sense. This is just the purification or whatever it is plus that. All right, sounds good. And Strike with Fear. Your weapons against creatures that are afraid, shaken, or have 5 stacks of terror get vulnerability. Does this have an internal cooldown, or is this to stack up quickly?
Just stacks up quickly.
Very cool.
If they're afraid, shaken, or have those stacks, then yeah, every weapon hit you're gonna have vulnerability.
All right, so now it's tier 5, the top tier. Why am I taking Legendary Dreadnought? I can already see some things that might rattle some people's bones, but we'll get there. Legendary Tactics, +3 to all tactical DCs, and if you have Tactician, you also gain +5 physical and magical resistance rating. It's all right. It's a good start. Terror, big attack. Terror Strike, +4 W and an auto crit, or +4 W and an auto crit. Remember, you can combine this with Adrenaline if you want down here. So you have like Adrenaline plus this, and it's a whole thing. So that's pretty cool. That's a good attack. Dusk Surge. While in Legendary Dreadnought Destiny Mantle, hitting enemies with their weapons has a chance to regenerate an action boost Ooh, permanent action boosts.
Yep.
That's very cool.
There's a few items in the game that do this already. They're largely old at this point, and this doesn't stack with them. So if you have them, it's not going to trigger any additional times. But this, doesn't require to be using those specific like Thunder Forged weapons and things like that.
Yep. Now I already see this. Dire Charge.
Yep.
Dire Charge is Dreadnought.
Yep.
So F's in chat, everybody, rip Dire Charge. It's still good ability, but rip Dire Charge on every melee character in DDO. It is now you have to be in Legendary Dreadnought.
So in talking about, kind of Dire Charge and looking at the Epic Sphere in general, we noticed a lot of builds were taking Dire Charge, and because of its availability and because of the way that it's DC scaled, it meant that even some builds that weren't built to do melee stuff that hard could really get a very strong AoE melee stun. And we didn't think that is overall kind of healthy for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Want you to be doing things that, match with your build a bit better. There's an argument to be made that a lot of the other available choices for feats at those levels weren't doing well either, and that's something, we might be able to address in other ways. But ultimately, this is a skill that we felt paired really well with Dreadnaught's paradigm, and fit the martial theme, and so we decided ultimately to move it here.
Mm-hmm. I personally am a big fan of this. I like Dire Charge. I hate Dire Charge on every character build and never choosing anything else. So this is, for me, a big win. I think this is great. But the thing is, question for you, it's highest strength dex or con. Other abilities in this exact tree are all DCs. Why is this one strength dex and con and not all of them?
This is another one where it's AoE nature and the fact that it brings you to two pods of enemies. We kind of wanted to, and especially having moved it to tier 5, lower tier actives, you might splash in on something like an Eldritch Knight or something, but we've kind of felt that this ability, with the level of power that it has, should be a little bit more restricted toward martially focused characters, and as a result, we decided, at least tentatively, we're going to look at it.
It's all very subject to change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could change, but we wanted to see how it does with it just being strength dex con, so it gives incentive for people to use those ability scores on those kind of martial builds, as opposed to, obviously everyone should go into know the angles and Dire Charge will be fine.
Right, that makes sense.
If you're an int build, hopefully we've got other offerings in the Destinies that are really solid for you. But for now, we're just looking at, can we have good use cases for this skill that are just strength dex con.
Yep. And then we also have No More Pulverizer. It's still here, but it's crit multi, 19 or 20, and you have to pick your weapon damage type, which seems fine. Not really that big of a change. There's one thing missing from here, two things missing from here, actually, that I was curious about with the previous system. The big two were Action Hero, where you get your action boost 100% uptime. And the other one was the... can't remember what it's called. It's like You Can't Keep Me Down or whatever it is, where it's basically the Harper Pin effect, where you remove all the effects. What was the motivation for taking those two abilities out? Is that something maybe we'll see in the future? How do you feel about those abilities?
The CC removal, I think, just kind of fell by the wayside when we were getting the theming of the trees together. It could come back if people want it. We do have like a tier 4 slot there. It just didn't really match the theming of the tree, even though it is a very useful skill. So maybe we'll have to think about that one and where it could come back. It might not be Dreadnought, but it could end up somewhere. Action Hero, we sort of knew right away we wanted to do away with Action Hero. It is kind of this... It has a really weird effect on a lot of builds. Just in that the core thing it does is make it so that your action boosts, more or less, with a few edge cases, don't have cooldowns that are longer than the action boosts themselves. So you can just chain action boosts and keep them up 100% of the time. We've known for a long time that doesn't lead to the kind of gameplay we want for action boosts, where it's just you can have this up all the time and there's never a downtime for it. We want action boosts to be a boost you get temporarily, and then have a period where you don't have it. And it was especially exacerbated when you looked at things like crossbows and fusillade, where you could just chain fusillades together because they counted as action boosts.
Right, exactly.
So since on two different fronts, it was leading to builds that weren't doing the kind of gameplay we wanted from action boosts as a feature, we decided to cut it.
I'm honestly surprised that you didn't call out Blitz being gone.
Yeah.
No, Blitz sucks. I hate Blitz.
Yeah, like I was about to say, it's like
Blitz
I'm
is the
glad
worst.
because, like, frankly, what that was is you pressed this button and you had frustrating gameplay. Like you just made
Yeah.
your experience worse.
Yeah,
And
I hate Blitz.
we're just gonna give you those stats. You want the melee power? It's right in the course. You get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
Blitz
that's
is a
it.
bad ability, and I'm glad to see it gone. Actually, that was the other thing. Also, there's no actual action boosts in the tree at all.
Right.
They used to have 3, now they have 0.
You want you to get those from your class or from universal trees.
Okay, cool, sweet. I do like this. I like this one. This is very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing some more action boost and related stuff to this. Is there another tree in here? There's another one, I think, right?
Shadowdancer.
Shadowdancer.
Did I unlock Shadowdancer? Let's find out. Oh, Magus of the Eclipse. No, it's empty. Damn. Shadowdancer. I do have it unlocked. Do you want to talk about Shadowdancer?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I am probably going to bow out if that's all right, because I got some.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate that. And a reminder, if you look at this stuff and you're angry or you're sad or you're happy or you love things, post on the forums. That's literally the whole point. Play around with it, click the buttons, try your builds, post on the forums.
Yes, it is improbable that we have gotten all of this 100% correct the very first time.
Yeah, exactly.
That is not likely. So, please, that's why we're doing a preview for Update 51 before Update 50's previews, is because we would like to get feedback.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, it's basically like they're trying to... I have to redo the camera again! Okay, anyway, while I'm recropping this camera, it sounds like you guys are under the impression where you very much want to specifically get this right from the start. And so you want to ensure that specifically with this one, you're taking your time, you're doing this like way ahead of time. You know, like the fact that, you know, we haven't... this isn't coming out for however many months or whatever it is, and we've already got the preview going. So Shadowdancer, please walk me through this. When you see Shadowdancer, what are the things that you immediately were like, this is good, this is bad, and how has Shadowdancer evolved? Because you've talked a little bit about it already.
I think Shadowdancer is something I really wanted to try specifically. Is I want to see if this paradigm can support an actual hybrid tree. Like I want to I want to see if Shadowdancer as a whole can exist as something that you can take evenly if you are a melee or a ranged or a spellcaster. Like something that, like if you're a spellcaster, you can look at Shadowdancer in a totally different way. So abilities do different things depending on what you need, and they also deal with more than one charge type.
Right.
I also really wanted this to one, focus on avoidance defenses, and two, really wanted this to be an illusion offensive casting tree, because I wanted to build weird, and
Weird? Oh,
yeah.
geez,
Spoiler alert.
Louise, dude. It's finally here.
It's finally happening.
in the game. Wait, Matrim just released Wave Dancer? Oh, that's exciting. Now it's in the builder. Now we can all be a Wave Dancer. Shadowdancer, Wave Dancer. All right. Shadowdancer, let's go. Retreat to the shadows. You gain the trap finding feat.
That name is wrong, I'm pretty sure. Are all the cores named Retreat to the Shadows for some reason?
Oh, yes, they're all Retreat to the shadows.
Great. Okay, I know exactly what that bug is. Okay.
So trap finding feat. Why?
Okay. So just because I've seen this come up a lot, this only lets you see traps. This does not let you disable traps. No, not every class can trap. Bad Twitch chat. No, this is if you do not have rogue or artificer levels, you cannot even put points into disable device unlock. You cannot use those skills.
Right.
This means that if you're playing in epics and you honestly, this is the actual use case. If you're playing in epics and you don't really know the quest and have never played as a trapper before, but you have the skills for it, this means that you actually get a bit of an advance warning with the spot warnings. Like this is purely for people who actually would really appreciate that kind of light advanced warning. And that's
Right.
why it's a core. It's like one action point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's it. And like this won't let you actually trap. This just means that if you're unfamiliar with the content, you're going to be getting those advanced warnings, and you can casually like, oh, I shouldn't go down that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an exciting one. The next one is Dimension Door.
Just Dimension Door. No charges, nothing. You just get Dimension Door.
Sweet.
That's
And
it.
tier 3 is Evasion. And if you already have Evasion, you get Improved Evasion. And if you already have Improved Evasion, you get Improved No, you get minus 25% threat from all sources. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. So if I'm a
It's
ranger,
an-
I can get Improved Evasion.
Yes, it's an evasion upgrader. Yeah.
Evasion 3.
Incredibly improved evasion. Unfortunately, did not make the cut.
Incredibly improved evasion. Just take an extra feats, the new epic feat.
Yeah.
All right. So now we have Stealthy, where you get extra reflex saves, hide and move silently, and hide in plain sight. Pretty standard. Cover of Darkness, minus 30% threat, and you gain Night Shield, so you are immune to magic missiles. Very cool. That's a very cool effect. Assassinate for Assassinate DCs, and on Sneak Attack, you have a 10% chance to get a Martial Token. Technician is staying in here, and if you have Nimble Fingers, you also gain +1 Sneak Attack dice.
Yep. This won't make Nimble Fingers good, but it will mean that if you did choose it, it's now less bad.
Oh, maybe it would make, but because that's an extra Sneak Attack dice. That's better than Weapon Focus, you know?
Yeah, but like, I suppose. I think it really depends on how much Sneak Attack dice means to you. And like, they are very, very, very strong.
Mm-hmm. That's honestly not that bad. Next is...
Honestly, the complication with a lot of these feats, this is something we've learned over time, is that say you've got like an epic destiny ability that, for example, boosts Nimble Fingers, right? Like we're just looking at.
Mm-hmm.
You still don't want to take this feat in heroics. Like you still don't, because you're not going to get an actual benefit for like 15 or 16 levels.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that does introduce a very weird experience in which we're ending up in situations where players would have a different build at level 30 than the one they level up with.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not 100% sure how that's going to shake out. Like, for all we know, people will simply reorganize and just take that feat in epics. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's something we're keeping an eye on.
So that brings me to that other question is, that is not the least common thing in some other video games that I've played where your character build changes over time because you just automatically get access to something you could not previously have had access to before, in like a big way. Even when it comes to like the separation of epics, do you think that, and an easy example would be something like there is the weapons from the Feywild raid that scale off of weird alternative stats. So you might have somebody who plays Wisdom Hit and Damage and uses Falconry for 29 levels, gets their raid weapon, and then completely unspecs that whole tree and is a different type of build or type of thing. Do you think that it is wholly is this like a new space you guys are willing to explore as of right now, or are you just unsure about that?
I think it totally depends, because if it's something that would require just respecting your points, then honestly that's fine. We have a reset button, it costs platinum. We all know you're capped on platinum. You know what I mean? Like, it is not an undue ask to give somebody like the 10 free AP once they're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it also means that you can make those builds without that item. Like, you'll just be down some AP, but it's not like the build will simply stop working. You have a way to point by your way out of a raid requirement,
Right.
or the other way around, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The complication kind of arises in which it would be something that would require multiple feat swaps, or in the case of specific feats that have other prerequisites, a full respec, which is something we're trying to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it used to be quite difficult to change your religion.
Yeah, it used to be.
Like, it used to be, and so we added in the thing, so now you do the 3-point swap, and it's a lot easier. But it's really hard to do things like change your warlock pact or change your domain.
Mm-hmm.
So if we end up in situations in which players would be encouraged to play with this, like one of those things and then swap like halfway through, we're kind of building in a situation where they would have to respec, and it's not a fun respec.
Yeah, it's a hard to wood respec.
Yeah, it's not good. Like, that's not something we want to really make mandatory. And like, obviously there are going to be some weird situations we can't really account for, like weird multi-classes that require you to get to certain levels and stuff. But like, at the very least, we can try to make it so that all of your respecs are either feat based and like they're feat based that you can actually talk to Fred and just get it done,
Mhm.
or they are enhancement point based in which you can just press the button that says reset your points and then you have the points to spend, and that's not a very undue ask.
Yep.
Um,
That makes sense. I feel like
We're
something like a
also-
single feat like this is probably pretty fine because somebody could possibly use Technician. Like, it's not like it's entirely useless. It does give you stats that are valuable in some capacity. But I can see where you're coming from when it comes to large chains of things you have to build together and change. I can see that being like a more a harder to justify thing.
Yeah, and like it's also one of those things in which like, well, what if you make a build that you pick something like you don't want at like level 9 or whenever you get a feat or something,
Mhm.
and then you just swap that out when you get to level 20 into Technician. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not a very difficult swap to make,
Mhm.
assuming it wasn't like a combat style or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
so
Well,
it's just something we're keeping an eye on. I'm sorry, please continue.
no, let's keep going. The only other question I saw was if you get evasion from a weird source, so like you get evasion from being a wolf druid, or if you get evasion from being an alchemist, does that count for retreat the shadows, or does it not count?
No, this counts if you have evasion as if you either leveled up with it. Like it's looking for the actual feat on your character, not the temporary feat that it can give you a copy of.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, this is a lot of these things care about the actual hard feat, and we made specific care to not be like the temporary version of it.
All right, so builders. We have Striding Strike, which does damage and gives you a martial charge, and it blinds people based on your assassinate and all ability scores. Striding Shot, which does the same thing, but it's a bow attack or whatever, a ranged attack. Or Nightmare Lance, which is an arcane builder. Wait, this is martial, but this one's arcane builder. Ooh.
Yes, this is. We'll see if this works. If an actual tree can support more than one type, and I mean like, not like a melee or ranged, but I mean like this is also a hard spellcasting tree.
Yeah. A Lance of Darkness extends from your fingers, impaling a nearby enemy. They take a d6 plus 6 force damage per character level, which is a good amount. And the enemy must succeed on a DC 20 plus Wisdom Charisma modifier, plus Illusion DC bonuses, will saving throw to avoid becoming blinded, and it grants you an arcane charge. So very, very cool. 30-second cooldown. Oh man, does that go down as I level that up? Yeah, it does.
It's supposed to be
it
6.
does.
It's supposed to be 6 seconds.
Yeah, it goes down to... It starts at 30, goes down to 10. Probably a buck.
That's supposed to be 6.
Oh. Well, anyway,
Whoopsie.
It's supposed to be 6.
It's supposed to be 6. I'm sorry.
Do Swiss still exist? No, your fate points give you destiny points. It just gives you more action points. There's a whole post about it, Matron. So you'll be able to follow that. Long Shadows. Each martial charge now grants you sneak attack dice, and you no longer automatically fail reflex saves when you roll a 1. That's the sickest one-pointer I've ever seen in my life. Oh my god.
Probably 2 points.
Sleight of Hand, which gives you 10% offhand strike chance, which is really good. Shadow Form, which is your Epic Destiny Mantle. 30 points gives you movement speed, sneak speed. This will not stack with other things. And your attacks gain Ghost Touch. That's the first step of Shadow Form. Meld into Darkness, where you get uncapped dodge per martial charge. So if I have 3 martial charges, which is the standard, I press this button and it gives me 30% dodge chance that goes above the dodge cap.
Yes.
So it's no
it's
longer
also
95%.
correct, but the cooldown is far lower and the max of 60% here.
Right. And you can spend this whenever you want.
Yes.
So as long as you're constantly generating martial charges from other sources, you can then continue to spend.
Yes.
So that makes sense. So yeah.
This ignores your dodge cap, but does not ignore the 95% dodge soft cap, in which dodge no longer applies beyond a certain point.
Lithe is still here, and it's a
Yes.
good ability, so great job, Lithe.
Yep.
Whispers is and a button I will never press. It acts as a noisemaker trap. It reminds me of the
Fey Dark Illusionist,
one.
distract,
I couldn't
yeah.
remember that for
That
some reason.
one-
Thank you for saving me.
Yes, that one I'm actually not too fond of. It's like my least favorite ability in the tree. I don't even think it works anymore. It used to work, but like if I thinking about design here, I kind of feel like it might be turned into a more castery focused something.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's kind of cool. Shadowdancer spell focus, illusion DCs, necromancy, abjuration, or enchantment. You got to put abjuration somewhere. Might as well be here.
Yeah, there's supposed to be abjuration in Primal Avatar too, but I wouldn't blame Brent for forgetting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You can now keep meld up 100% of the time. So
Yes,
it's
but
a
it does
kind of a
mean you're
cool
not
trade-off.
spending those tokens on anything else. That's like the big trade-off with the system is that like you can get these really powerful abilities and they're really, really strong. But there's an entire action economy that is like completely separate from what you're used to.
Yeah. Grim Precision is Grim Precision. It's very good. Crippled with Shadows is Crippling Strike, and if you already have it, it's Constitution damage, which is way better than Strength damage.
Oh yeah.
And also Martial Charge Cap, which is kind of cool. Depths of Darkness, which is an upgrade to your mantle that grants you extra sneak attack dice and spell penetration. I was about to say this doesn't have sneak attacks in the cores anymore, so I was wondering how that would come back, so very cool. All right, tier 4. Now we're getting to some of the really big investments. Where are my investments coming from? Pierce the Gloom. +3 to hit for sneak attacks and hit while flanking. Immunity to silence, quell, and blindness. Immunity to quell. I don't know if I would take this for immunity to quell, but immunity to quell.
Just in case. You never know.
Oh, God. Next is Dark Armor. PRR, MRR, Spell Power. Sounds fine.
Yep.
Dark Mercy, Helplessness damage, standard. The Drop. The First Blood feat now deals double its base damage, applies on spell cast, and its damage scales with 100% of your force spell power.
Yes, the force spell power only scales on the spellcast version of the feat.
Very cool. And whenever you cast illusion spell, gain an arcane charge. How do you get arcane? How do you get arcane charges for your meld into darkness as a spender?
Martial charges?
Or martial charges? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You don't.
Oh, all right.
Like I don't know. Like the original version of this did something different depending on how many. It was both a martial and an arcane version.
Would
and
you consider having a multi-selector for meld, one for martial and one for arcane?
I was thinking about it, but I honestly was a little worried that was too boring. Like if I were doing like one or the other, I would just have it subtract your highest.
Oh yeah.
Or something. I don't think there's any to. I don't know. Like I think it's. This is kind of the weird struggle of like we're running into making a hybrid tree, and I really want to make this work, but it might just not.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, this will get archived on YouTube, and wait till you see the Magus of the crescent of the Magus. I don't remember the name.
Magus the Eclipse.
Magus of the Eclipse. I was gonna say moon, but that sounded wrong.
It is not in this preview.
All right. Tumbling while in stealth now grants you martial charge, or grants you a martial charge, more sneak attack, +5 to hit and damage with sneak attacks, and the ability to sneak with full movement speed once a minute.
Yes, in playtesting, this ability is very fun. Like you tumble while you're in stealth, and then you get to have a burst of movement speed.
Cool. That sounds like it'll be nice. It's got a way shorter cooldown than the previous version of this ability, which will make it a lot more exciting to use. So I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah. It's also one less button.
It's a thing you don't have to get on there.
Not to get too pedantic, or not to get too weird about it, but it's like if casters can't go into R10 without meld, then we should just make casters better. Like if meld is the only thing holding that entire archetype up, then it's too strong and casters need more defenses.
Also, you can 100% go into R10s without meld. I mean, you have to like look at the screen and press the buttons and stuff.
But, whoa.
But you definitely can. Like, if you just see where the monsters are and go, maybe I shouldn't stand right there. Or maybe you should let somebody else go into the room first. Those are all great ideas if you want to help out your casters a little bit. All right, Greater Shadow Form. This enhances your Destinies Mantle. Cloak yourself. It grants you 25% incorporeality, more movement silently, reduced movement speed penalty, or allows you to cast with a reduced movement speed penalty. Allows you to float as if you had Featherfall, and when you roll a natural 20 on a melee or range attack, you envelop in the sneak attack. And you do not need to be in shadow form for this to happen. Oh, that's the sneak attack probably, right?
Yes.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yes, but you don't actually have to be in the toggle. Like specifically in the shadow form mantle.
All right. Just a Taste, which is +1 crit multi with bows, thrown weapons, crossbows, and finessable melee weapons.
Yep.
Weird. The spell is added. The weird spell is added to your spellbook as a level 9 spell if you're a cleric, sorcerer, druid, wizard, or favored soul, or a level 6 spell if you're an artificer, alchemist, bard, or warlock. Requires the ability to cast the spells of those. Weird has Phantasmal Killer, DC 20 plus highest of Int, Wisdom, Charisma plus Illusion. Weird Artificer. That's very cool.
Yep. Yeah, it's finally happening.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't think this is going to be overpowered. But I'm also thinking, like, this is a head scratch ability. This is one of those ones where you're like, how do I get this into my build? And how do you feel about that, you know? It's definitely a cool build around thing. This is exciting.
Yeah, it's I really hope like the actual offensive illusion spellcaster maintains more of a niche, and people have been asking for the AoE Phantasmal Killer for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like this tree got designed before Fate Arc Illusionist. Everyone was like, "Why don't you just put weird in it?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't because it's going someplace.
Because it's going to Shadowdancer. Yeah.
It's going someplace else." Like,
greater spell focus. It's got +3 to all spell DCs. Makes sense. And Shadow Mastery gives you Assassinate, Reflex saving throws, and Dodge Cap. So Shadowdancer already looking pretty exciting. A couple of things that I found that were noticeable that are missing. You got that Dark Imbuement, that big ranged attack, explosive melee sneak attack dealy.
it's not going back. That's gone. That required an insane amount of upkeep and produced some really bad, unfortunate problems with our action flow.
And then the other two abilities are the instant kills, the actual uses of your Assassinate, which is Executioner's Strike, which is gone, and Consume. Is it safe to say, like, is there a reason those attacks never made it into this tree, or?
Two different reasons. One is that I felt that Executioner's Strike stomped all of her Assassinate. Like, getting a version of Rogue's signature ability that everyone can get is very different than, like, getting access to Rage if you're not a Barbarian.
It's also extremely OP. Straight up.
And, like, it's like, I think that really diluted what made Rogue, like, Assassin special. In a way that I don't think shined very favorably on Rogue, because like if you're an assassin, obviously you're just gonna like Assassin is 1,000% better than Executioner's Strike. You know what I mean? But like if you already have your one insta kill, the other one AOE insta kill thing, that's gone someplace else. That is not gone. That is moved. And we'll see where it ends up.
Yeah,
could be anywhere.
This is the same thing as Everything is Nothing. We just have to wait.
Yes, Everything is Nothing is being moved to a tree that will... I'll say this. Everything is Nothing is going to go into a tree that players will have access to with this revamp when it starts. Consume is going not there. It's going someplace else into a Destiny that we do not have a plan to release with the original 12.
And there we go. Very, very cool. And I think that's all the Destinies on here. So that's pretty neat, actually, looking through all of these.
Do you want to talk about the feat and level up changes? I noticed we didn't go over that when you were reading the notes, but
yeah, I completely missed that on the notes. Yeah, I'd love to do that. So, feat and level up changes. I can actually just level up, and we can look at it here in game instead. If that sounds good.
Sure, although some of this stuff are removals or modifications that wouldn't really be noticeable from inside the game. For example, all of the skill focus feats are gone. They're simply gone. If you had skill focus spot, now you don't anymore.
Let me get the feat listing up. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
All right, legendary feat
they're out of
changes. Okay. I'm just gonna move this here. Make it a little smaller so it fits. Okay.
Honestly, I might actually spoil this. Yes, Everything Something is actually swapping with in Fatesinger. Like the Turn of the Tide that ended up in Grandmaster, and Everything Something went to Fatesinger. But it's like a flavor-wise, it's like a pluck a thread from the weave and they disintegrate out of the multiverse kind of thing. You know what I mean? Rather than like, because it's a weave fate tree. It's that's where it's. I don't know. They swapped. That's the answer.
All right, so changes to legendary feats. Something. We changed the trees, changed the epic destinies and feats. This lets us boost feats that are underperforming. The goal was to spread out the power that is there, so we've added power to epic and destiny feats and made them available at lower levels. Also want to make the Scion feats a more competitive choice, so it's not just Scion of Plane of Fire, and it's also not just it's Scion of Fire, Arborea, the Shadow one, no, Ethereal Plane. And
I feel like the melee ones actually had a good bit of choice. Like there's only like 2 real options and there's like Astral Plane, Ethereal, and Arborea, and people are kind of split between Arborea and Astral and like or Ethereal, and that's not as bad as the spellcast ones.
Yeah. So epic feats, epic power, auto granted feat. Granted you melee power, range power, universal spell power, and -1 to cost. Now it also provides increased spellcasting level for a total of 30, or sorry, +5 when you hit level 30. So everyone's going to be a level 25 spellcaster if you don't multiclass, and somewhere in between if you do multiclass. Epic Destiny feats. All Destiny feats no longer contain sphere requirements because there are no spheres. +1. Great job. Epic spell power. All types. Provides 10% spell power, or sorry, 20 spell power, and a 10% spell critical damage with the appropriate spell type. That's pretty good for an epic spell feat. Epic skill focus. Gone. And it's gone. Dire Charge, and it's gone. It's in Primal Legendary Dreadnought. Mass Frog, there it is, and it's gone. It's in Primal Avatar. Destiny feats with no minimum level have level 22 instead. Destiny feats minimum level 28, you get to take one at 25, and Destiny feats that were at 29 are now at 28.
Yep, this means that you're getting your last combat style feat 4 levels earlier. Like, this is, the level 22 thing is not, like, there's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, perfect 2-weapon fighting, perfect 2-handed fighting, perfect fighting. All of that stuff is going to be here at 22 instead of 26, which is exciting. Legendary feat, Sign of Earth. Now is Conjuration and Transmutation spells. It also adds Poison DCs and 20% Acid and Poison crit damage.
Yeah, we really wanted to put Transmutation somewhere. And originally we put Poison with negative because of how the items worked. But thinking about it, with the benefit of hindsight, Acid and Poison are a little closer to the same thing. And Conjuration, Transmutation are like,
Sign of Air, electric crit damage. Sign of Plane of Fire is no longer the only feat, and now it grants you fire spell crit damage instead. Sign of Water gives evocation DCs and DCs of other spells, so it just doesn't give the spell points anymore instead of that, because that's not as good.
I mean, it could give the spell points. That was just one of like things where I was like taking off bullet points, and I was like, I should probably swap it out for something that like I don't think 200 spell points is really breaking the bank here, and that might stay. More importantly, though, it now has actual DCs in it. So if you are a cold caster, you are not penalized with DC and spell critical damage by not going fire.
Feywild gets Sonic spell crit damage. Exciting. Shadowfell gets negative spell crit damage, and it's not poison anymore because poison is moved to the Sign of Earth feat, so Shadowfell has no impact on poison. Mechanus gets repair and rust spell damage. You need that rust spell damage. And Sign
you
of
never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Like,
and Sign of Celestia has been cut down, so it's 20% damage, which is in line with everything else. This is pretty good. The only thing that's missing from here is Force spell power.
Yeah, the Players' Council actually was talking about that. It might end up in Feywild since Fate's Singer is a Sonic and also Force caster tree. And like Force and Sonic are both rarely used and rarely resisted, and it's probably not a disaster to put that in there.
All right, sweet. Sounds good to me. Where you go? The feats are these are just the changes. If it's not here, it's not the feat is gone. It's just changed.
Yeah, we should call that out. You're not the first person to ask that question. I want to be clear. Those other feats are still there.
Yeah.
They're there.
These are just the changed ones. It makes me wonder. There's also are there going to be? Will we expect any other changes to different epic feats? Somebody already called out some of the weird ones, stuff like Hellball, which is kind of just a disappointing ability in general.
Hellball also is like, I think it only has 2 of the 3 casting things.
Yeah.
So stuff like that is really where we would want to move. I mean, who knows? Maybe Hellball ends up in Draconic. Like, that wouldn't be a disaster.
That'd be very cool for Draconic.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is like everyone knows Mass Frog has some weird problems, right? I was talking about this on Discord yesterday. Mass Frog's problem is that it is a class feat for the epic class. So when you cast Mass Frog, the game goes, okay, what level are you?
Oh, it's an epic class
what I mean?
feat. That's funny.
What level are you? And your game goes, oh, you're level 10 because you're at 10 caster levels, 10 epic caster levels. So your spell pen is 20 points less than what it should be.
That's funny. I know that when I don't know what Mass Frog's DC is. I just know it's not what it says because it works on like everything.
Yeah, it's kind of just a disaster of a feat.
So
Frankly.
yeah, changing it up to make it better is a good idea.
But Hellball, I think is definitely on our short list to improve. Also, Spirit Blades, um, like
Oh yeah,
almost all
Spirit
the.
Blades. Oh my god, I forgot that's in the game.
Oh yeah, no. Like this
Oh.
is definitely not an exhaustive list of what we were planning on doing, but we're trying to say that if the base feats are at the very least serviceable, they get upgrades in the Epic Destiny, and sometimes we can intervene, and the base feat might need a little extra help. So we'll see.
Sweet.
I just got a frantic ping from Torque being like, Hellball and Draconic would be a disaster, and then he's like, oh, actually, it does all elemental damage types. No, that makes sense. So it's confirmed. It's going to be Draconic.
Yeah, exactly. Confirmed. Half-Life 3 confirmed. We got it.
Half-Life 3
first here,
confirmed.
folks.
It's happening.
Yeah. So this makes me wonder. We've looked at the Epic Destiny, the feats. We've looked at the individual Destinies themselves. I think that's all the ones available for the preview. The ones that are still missing, we have Unyielding, Magus of the Eclipse, that sort of thing. Which one do you still have under your belt?
I have Draconic on my plate. And I can actually talk a little bit about Draconic. It is being expanded outwards to also include green dragons for poison and shadow dragons for negative.
Ooh, evil Draconic. Mwah.
Yes.
I love that. Draco Lich, basically. Draconic. I love that.
Yes, it's actually, it honestly changed kind of the least from how Draconic currently is, because like Draconic currently is solid. Like it is pretty solid. It's got some good stuff. It's got breath weapon stuff. It has a lot of really Draconic focused things in it that just make a lot of sense. And that one just needed it just needed some TLC. Like they needed a little bit of elbow grease and just to rearrange a little bit. And it's a very different story than like Primal Avatar or something, which like needed a lot more restructuring.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I was going to say, the only issue that I really have with Draconic is, like, it de facto the best one because of the crit multi, which is being adjusted, or I'm assuming will probably get adjusted somewhere, and then also the other issue is that, like, half the abilities just don't work. There's, like, a Dragon Fear attack that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
well, at the very least, I think you can assume that our new Epic Destinies
are going to work, yeah.
Yes, if you press the button, at least something will happen, rather than nothing. Speaking of things that are really important to call out, I know this isn't the release notes, but I wanted to be 100% sure that everyone here was watching, spread this around. We made some pretty significant back-end changes to how spells and attacks queue to our action queue, which should alleviate a certain percentage of how players experience dry fire abilities. So while you're playing on a Lamania right now, just try casting some spells and see if this is better than what you were expecting. I know right now, a lot of the focus of some of our performance problems has been on things not landing, and this actually might severely change that. Like this Q stuff is no joke. So if you are experiencing those problems on live, please take your character to Lamania and just throw some stuff out and see if this is better or worse. We had some action Q stuff lying around that we like hooked up, and we just really wanted to get as many eyes in this as possible.
Yep, I have
the
100%
side effect
experienced
is
this.
yes,
I action queue literally every time I buff. Every time I buff, I'm missing like 3 spells, and I have to go back and figure out which ones I didn't cast. This is great.
Yes, our queue is only 1 deep. So if something bumps something out of the queue, it will not spend the thing it bumped out of, you know what I mean? But it will actually queue. And we think this is why certain things are not working the way that you think they were, and that's why it feels so frustrating. So if this alleviates that problem or doesn't do anything or really anything, just test this out because this actually might be it. Weird side effect, this also may fix hireling AI. So also try healing hirelings and see if they work.
Interesting. That's kind of neat. Oh man. So that actually leads into leads me to more questions. If there's a queue, is there a possibility to extend the queue?
No.
Okay, that answers that question immediately. Because I know that in Lotro it's also 1 skill queue, which is killer.
The actual gameplay experience of a queue does, I think, in my mind. That's supposed to be changed to work in progress. Don't use because we actually spelled senses wrong and accused in a acute sentence. That's not good. Anyway, yes. Okay, so imagine this scenario. Okay, you are a sorcerer and you're shooting fire at your hands because you're beating somebody up, and somebody comes from behind you and stabs you, and you're like, oh no. So you start jamming the heal button. If behind the scenes your Q is actually extended invisibly, that heal is now several seconds away rather than the next thing you want. You want this Q to only be 1 deep.
Right, that makes sense.
Otherwise, things stop being reactive, and you ended up with scenarios where your character is doing something that you don't want it to do.
Very true.
But please, please, please try this out if you're having problems with dry firing or with actions being weird. Like, actually do it. It's really important
100%.
if you bring on this.
Well, there's a lot of testing to get done with all these different trees. When you look at some of these different changes, so you've got, Shadowdancer here and other things, are there some builds that immediately you hit your mind and you're like, these are things I would love to try with this specific thing?
Yes, absolutely, yes. I really, really, really want shield offense to work. I really want Divine Crusader to absolutely carry that up into upper echelons.
Yep.
I'm really excited for that. I really want to play with favorite weapons that are not otherwise racially appropriate. It would be great to use Bastard Swords and the Purple Dragon Knight.
Yep.
And also, this opens up. This is a super easy way to get favorite weapons if you are not even a divine class. So I played with a pure fighter quarterstaff build. That then took Arion and then was in Divine Crusader and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm really excited for that. I'm excited to see if Shadowdancer works as a hybrid.
Yeah. It's got some cool 4 stuff in here, and it has some different abilities. The main issue I see is the whole martial spender, arcane spender builder sort of dealy. Also, it looks like the only spender in this tree is just the meld into darkness that you get here.
Yes. And this is part of why these are very, very early into our designs. So we're still figuring out whether or not the system actually how to make it feel fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously things are going to get rearranged and changed. Some stuff's pretty rock solid. I don't think we'll really have to reinvent the wheel on Stealthy. So.
Oh, if you guys are asking about the 1 second timer limit, that's because apparently it looks really dumb when you attack really fast.
Yeah, it just doesn't look good. It looks really silly. The good news is that making shields double strike at 50%. So if you're at cap, that's mechanically equivalent to making them attack faster, for a varying percentage chance. So just that's straight up 50% more shield damage right there. Which is relatively comparable to making them attack faster. I'm also thinking, because we have a lot of shield stuff in and yielding as well, but it's way more defensive focused. So another area that I really want to improve is that I feel compared to Grandmaster of Flowers, which has phenomenal builders spedders that are unique and awesome, Divine Crusader just has hit things and then also hit things. So maybe the spender could turn into a shield rush kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I very much like a lot of the different turns that some of this tree is taking in a lot of these different trees. But again, it's going to be there's going to need to be a lot of testing. So I've said this a million times. I encourage all of you, if you are curious and you want to see things and you don't know how something's going to work, make sure you log in and you check it and you put the pieces together and try it out, because that's the easiest way to help, is just to add that kind of information in there. Because I'm going to be doing that a whole bunch, but just keep that in mind. Are you needing 2 cores? No, there's just 2 cores available, or 3 cores available per preview, and you can continue to. I'm assuming that there will probably be more to this in the future, but right now in the preview, this is what we have.
Yes, it's this is kind of said almost semi-implicitly, is that this system, another huge reason why we're doing this is that this needs to be able to move forward. This needs to be able to expand upwards.
Also,
so this makes me wonder, even beyond just this one, there was a post that says we can have up to 15 epic destinies in total in the post. There's we can add even more. Are you able to shed any insight about when Frozen Soul is going to be added to the game?
That's actually our 16th Destiny.
Oh, the 16th Destiny. Oh,
yeah, unfortunately.
Oh.
No, that's a huge benefit of this system, is that we can add more. We can actually add more Destinies to this tree, and every Destiny that you claim as 2 additional fate points. So like even if you don't want actually to use it, you'd want to unlock it. The three, like the elephant in the room, the three missing classes: Alchemist, Warlock, and Artificer.
Yep.
And we have a lot of very tentative paper plans for what those are going to look like. But nothing that right now we'd really want to commit to, with the exception of the Warlock tree, which I will be doing myself and taking no feedback on. So what you see is what you get. I'm not listening to anything. Like
my
I will,
tree. Yeah.
Yes, no, I'm serious. Like they're like, it's, you can't stop me. Like you cannot stop me. It's going to be the best tree you've ever seen in your entire life. It's perfect.
That is a great question. Do you happen to know, because I didn't do the math on it, the rough number of Destiny points that you have as a maximum in the system if you had all of them?
We did the math in the forum post, and I believe it is 19 if you are a triple all epic completionist.
But that's at level 1, and then you earn 40 from leveling?
Yes,
so you'd
40
have
from leveling.
59 if you have all the points available in the game. So if you're a racial epic completionist, you have the tome from the store, you have 59 points to play with right now.
I believe so. Although, like again, like all of that could possibly change.
Yeah.
Like we specifically built this so that we can move a whole bunch of the building blocks, even the really fundamental building blocks around. So, like, please just try it out. Tell us how you think. Tell us what you think. Because we specifically did this way ahead of time so we could have a lot of time to look at all the feedback.
Yeah. To kind of figure out how many points feels good and that sort of thing. Because the system obviously is going to grow. Like if you get points per level, and if we eventually get a 31 and a 32 and a 33, we'll have more points to play with. For sure. But yeah, it's more than you would have. Like imagine if you were like, it's 10 epic levels. Imagine if you're a level 10 character, you'd only have 40 points. So getting an extra 19 is going to really expand the options a little bit. Do you feel like that the extra 9 points that are available to people who have past lives and the other stuff is like, do you think it's a big deal, or is that not that big of a concern?
I don't think it's really complicated, because if it were just the 9 points, I'd be saying like, yeah, that's an appropriate reward for the amount of effort you've invested into your character. But epic past lives are also hideously strong. Like they're also build defining even in heroics.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we really do not want to invalidate all of the work that all of our players have so diligently put together.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So like, right now this is actually a huge buff to the idea of epic past lives, because they give their current bonuses, and then also the fate points they give are increased, and now fate points do something very, very different than what they did before. So we'll see. Like we really, really don't want to make it feel like players put all that time in for nothing. So we're taking special care with that.
Another thing I was curious about, this is just a weird thing. So when we have +2 racial points right now in the game, and +1 universal enhancement point. So with the universal enhancement point, that leaves you with 81 points to spend in your non-racial trees. So you can only take 1 capstone. Following progression, I can do that with my brain up to, if we increase in level and we get more points as we level up, you could have more than 81 points in the system, which means you could take more than 1 capstone in a core enhancement.
That's a problem for us in 7 years.
Oh, okay, cool. Never mind.
Like
7 years? I'll be dead by then.
We'll figure it out. Maybe. But no, it's certainly a question. Like it's a very interesting one. I think it depends on, because like we're gonna know the answer ahead of time. You know what I mean? So it depends on whether or not we want these capstones to be exclusive, and we don't want them to be exclusive. We can just build them to not be that defining. You know what I mean? Because the expectation is that you would get more than 1.
That makes sense.
Yeah. All right, I have to roll. It is 5 p.m. here, and I would like to have food at some point before I die of hunger.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't want to die either, but I hunger for game knowledge, so I will continue to play.
Yes. Yeah. So if I could get one last thing out, please test the action queue stuff for spellcasting, and see if this fixes your. Anyone here on this Twitch chat, all 200 of you, try it. Like figure out if it works. But yeah, I'm gonna take off. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
This was a lot of fun, and if you missed some of this, it'll be on YouTube. Unless it's not, but it should. It's a very lucrative idea.